What's going on, guys? Back at you with another video. Trying to be semi-quiet. I wasn't planning on recording a video today, but I could not sleep tonight. And it's currently in the middle of the night as I'm filming this. So I'm trying to be quiet, not to wake everybody in the house up. So you just have to bear with me. I say I wasn't planning on making a video. I was just kind of excited. It's not often I get excited about knives anymore. And this one, you wouldn't really think would be a knife to get excited about. But I got a 4-Max. Obviously, the Scout. I didn't buy the original 4-Max. This wasn't a knife that I'd want to spend $300 or $400 on. But for what I paid for it, I was really excited to get one. Box that way, get the knife in here. Here it is, the 4-Max. And probably just like you, I watched a lot of YouTube videos on this knife before I got one. It's not that expensive. It's not like a big investment to have to make to get one of these. But you know, I'm just one of those people. I do a lot of research on products before I buy them. And this knife wasn't any exception to that. And let me tell you, every video I watched on this knife, they weren't exaggerating. This knife is huge. You'll have to work with me on the camera a little bit. This knife is not a flickable knife, as you can see. And I will be struggling this whole video to keep this knife in frame. I'm planning on filming another video after this one, so I didn't want to have to adjust my camera setup height-wise to get everything in. So if at some point during the video I get this knife out of frame, I'm sorry about that. It's just a really big knife, and I'm not used to having to keep a knife this size in frame all the time. But anyway, as you can see, this is the 4-Max Scout. Again, I was really interested in this knife. As many of you know, I've mentioned in other videos, I like big, heavy, hard-to-use folding knives, especially at work. That's what I tend to carry. And so, of course, cold steel in general has always kind of been one of my go-tos. I think they make a really good product at a really good price. So when they came out with the Scout, I knew I was going to get one eventually. I got this one from Knife Center. Yeah, Knife Center. Really good price. I know on Cold Steel's website right now, this knife is out of stock. And on Cold Steel's website, they have it selling for $120. I got this one on Knife Center for $82.95. $82.95, and I ordered another knife at the same time, and any order over $100 shipped free. So my order was over $100, so $82.95 is what I paid for it, all in. Really good knife, really good price, especially for the amount of knife you're getting here. Let's get into some of the specs. This knife has a 4-inch blade. Obviously that's large. I would call this a full-size knife, but that doesn't really do it justice. Some of the other videos that I've seen on this knife have also said this is about as close to a folding fixed blade is what you're gonna get. It's a 4-inch blade, and as you can see, it is AUS 10A, as opposed to the original 4-Max. The original 4-Max, I don't remember for sure. I didn't really take a lot of interest in the original 4-Max because I knew I wasn't going to get one. I'm wanting to say it was a more premium knife. I'm wanting to say it probably had S30V, S35VN, 20CV, something like that. This has AUS 10A. I've mentioned in other videos, I don't claim to be a metallurgist. I don't know. I know the basics of most knife steels, but I don't just have this wealth of knowledge about what is what. But from my experience, and I've seen a bunch of other people, it's roughly on. A bunch of people say it's on par with VG10. For my use, I would actually say I prefer this to VG10. And that's that's a Spyderco VG10, not a crappy VG10. I would actually prefer this. I haven't just use this knife to where I have to reprofile it or anything yet, but I've been using it for a while. I've had this knife for about a month now, I guess. And I've carried it, a lot of you probably won't believe me, I've carried this knife almost every day. For the month since I've had this knife, this is the knife that I've carried with me almost every day. You know, assuming I could get away with it. And I don't dress up too much or anything like that. Very rarely I may put on a pair of khakis. 99% of the time I just wear blue jeans everywhere, and this knife works for me in that role. But the AUS 10A, this is the first knife I've had with it. I would say in my use, it's a little bit better than the VG10. I think it holds an edge better. It may not take as good of an edge as a really high quality VG10, but it seems to hold an edge better for me. I would kind of say, I would put it on par, from my experience, roughly up there with about 154 cm. That may be stretching it a little bit, but that's kind of the use I see out of this. That's about how good it's held up for me, is roughly a good 154 cm. Anyway, enough on that. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Like I said, I don't claim to know a whole lot about knife steels. Don't take my word for anything. I'm not an expert. Anyway, 4-inch blade, drop point, is flat ground from the swedge right here. As you can see, it's got a flat running all the way to here. Flat ground from the swedge. Stonewash finish. It looks pretty good. I know my camera doesn't do it justice. And plus, this knife it's sort of a polished stonewash, and it picks up fingerprints and smudges really, really bad. So I know it's just covered in fingerprints, and that's not helping it, but it is a stonewash finish. Another thing on this knife is the thumb studs. Flip it, or maybe it will focus on them. These thumb studs are massive. These are the biggest thumb studs. This knife in general is the biggest for a lot of things for me, but these thumb studs are massive. Let me see if, here, I've got this sitting here because I was going to use it as a size comparison later on in the video. This is it next to the Cold Steel Recon, and you can see how big the thumb studs are on this knife. They are huge. They are massive thumb studs. Get this knife out of the way. Very large knife, very large blade, and the blade stock is 188. So I'll call it 3/16 of an inch. That is a very thick blade stock, especially on a folding knife. Most of the fixed blade knives I use, I do a lot of outdoor stuff, camping. I'm not really a bushcrafter. I don't want to claim to be a bushcrafter, but I do a fair bit of, fire making, feather sticking, chopping down trees, that sort of stuff. Most of my outdoor knives that I use are 3/16 inch blades. So this is the same size stock as many of the fixed blade knives that I use. It's big, it's beefy, you're not going to break it, you're not going to hurt it. Thick knife. This knife runs on, I know you're not going to be able to see it because it's actually pretty tight down in there. This knife runs on Teflon and phosphor bronze washers. I've taken this knife apart already just to kind of see it, check it out on the inside. And I actually did pull those phosphor bronze washers out and polish them. It wasn't needed. It was just something that I've kind of gotten in the habit of doing. If I'm taking a new knife apart for whatever reason, just to mess with it or clean it or whatever. A lot of the time, as those phosphor bronze washers come from the factory, they're just a little scuffy, They could be smoothed out. So anyway, I polished the phosphor bronze washers up on here. Not that it's really needed for this style of knife, because I've heard a bunch of people say this isn't a one-handed knife. I disagree. I think it is a one-handed knife. The triad lock does make a one-handed operation difficult on any knife with a triad lock, I think. It's just not as, inclusive as a liner lock or a standard frame lock or compression lock or you know, Benchmade's axis lock, anything like that. But it is still one-handed. There's only one caveat to that, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. But it's smooth. It was smooth when I took it out of the box. There wasn't anything inherently wrong with it. I just wanted to polish those washers up while I had them out, and it just helped smooth it out that much more. The handle on this knife is 6 inches long. All the way from the leading edge up here to the butt back here. 6 inches long. It is a over full-sized handle. I have extra large hands. I wear an extra large glove. And as you can see, I am not using the, you could call it a kind of finger choil right there. Not using it, just in the handle. And I have 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of handle, I'm sorry, it's late, handle still sticking out past the end. This knife has plenty of handle if you were to use this for an outdoor knife, camping, bushcrafting, something like that. There is enough handle you can get a hold of it back here and use it as a chopping knife. I think it would work fine, and I think this knife would take it. Plenty of handle, gloves, no gloves. No one should have a problem getting their hand on this knife. If you can't fit your hand on this knife, you probably just need a very large fixed blade or a sword or an axe. I don't see any human reason this handle will be too small for somebody, and it's an ergonomic handle. It's just kind of that general, you know, utilitarian knife handle. It's not going to be form fitted to anybody, but it will probably fit everybody. This one, obviously, this is the Scout. This is the cheaper model. This does have the, I think Cold Steel calls it Griv X, these plastic handle scales. I actually don't mind Griv X. Many of you have heard me talk about Spyderco's FRN handle scales. These just feel better to me than those. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, plastic is still plastic. These still don't feel as high quality as something like G10 or micarta or titanium or anything like that. But I do think these feel better than Spyderco's FRN scales. I don't know what it is. It may just be the texture or the look. They don't look or feel as cheap to me as those do, or even Benchmade's plastic scales. As you can see, I'll try to get it close. This is a very aggressively textured handle. If you can see that. Very aggressive texture. This knife, I don't see it slipping out of anybody's hand. It's not aggressive to the point where it would be uncomfortable using it for an extended period of time, but it will not slip out of your hand. And as you can see, again, as I said, I do carry and use my knives, and I have been carrying this knife. The day I got this knife, if you can see, I'm not going to take the pocket clip off for this video just for the sake of time. Under this pocket clip right here, if you can see that, I took the pocket clip off and I sanded this handle down. This is a pocket shredder. It's a very strong clip. I can't get my finger up under it to pop it, but I couldn't pop it anyway. It's a very strong clip. This texture, as it comes under this clip, with only 1 or 2 pulls out of my pocket when I first got it, it was already starting to eat my pockets up. So I promptly took this pocket clip off and sanded that down flat. That has helped dramatically. Now I can, it doesn't chew my pockets up. That would almost be a requirement for me to carry this knife, because this thing will absolutely, I've used, some really aggressive scales before, heavily textured G10 scales, and such from Cold Steel and other manufacturers. These, above all, will destroy a pocket. It's just that fine texture. I don't know what it is. Don't ask me. They will destroy pockets. So I had to file that down. If you don't care about your pockets, you don't have to do that. That's your prerogative, your priority. Doesn't matter to me. This knife has, plastic scales. It has full stainless steel liners. And when I say full, I mean full. There's no skeletonizing of the liners anywhere on this knife. They are full, solid stainless steel liners. And again, that triad lock, Lord, look how thick this thing is. The triad lock mechanism itself is the same width as the blade. It's a piece of stock 3/16 inch steel. And it is just beefy. I see no one breaking this knife. under any normal use circumstance, even extraneous use circumstance. Full steel liners, 3/16 blade, and triad lock. That piece of stock right there is all 3/16. It's got an FRN, the same material as the scales. FRN back spacer all the way through the rest of the way. And you do have a lanyard hole on this knife. It's small, it's out of the way, it's not really noticeable. I don't mind it so much here. This knife is solid. I'm sorry, I know I've been doing a bunch of close-ups. It's just hard to keep this whole knife in frame and talk about it at the same time. This knife is just big, it's beefy, it's heavy. Overall length on this knife is 10 inches. So the same size as many fixed blade knives, 10 inches overall. And it weighs, by my scale, I think Cold Steel says it weighs 10 ounces. My scale, I measured it when I first got it. I'm not going to do it again for this video for the sake of time. My scale said it weighed 10.19 ounces. So if you are one of those people who goes by the ounce and inch rule, I mean, this is almost there. I mean, this is right at it. This is doable. I know 99% of people will never carry this knife on any sort of regular basis. I do. I love this knife. I've mentioned in other videos that I like big knives. I like heavy, hard use knives. I guess I'll bring it back in now. You saw it earlier. For a long time, my standard go-to work knife was the Cold Steel Recon 1, this one specifically. And I've still yet to do a video on this knife. I will at some point. This knife has a really funky blade grind on it, and there is a reason for that one day I will get around to discussing in the video why it is like it is. This was kind of my go-to knife for a long time, for just a tough, dependable work knife. And in all reality, this knife does everything I need it to. I've never had this knife fail on me, or I've never used this knife to a point that I felt like I was going to stress it too much to potentially cause a failure. But let me tell you, the Recon 1 has nothing on this 4MAX. This 4MAX, it feels like I'm just holding a lead pipe in my hand. And I mean that in the best way possible. This thing just feels indestructible. I just don't feel like there's anything that I could possibly do to break this knife. You know, I can't formulate the words for it. This is the most overbuilt folding knife that I've ever had. And I mean overbuilt just for sheer amount of material and the strength of the knife. Not necessarily quality of build, but I've had striders, I've had hinders, I've had fixed blades that don't feel as solid in hand as this knife does. It's just a beefy, chunky, it's a hell of a knife. It is a hell of a knife, and there isn't anything realistically that I would not trust this knife to do. And it's a good knife. I know it's big and it's really heavy. I mean, this thing's almost pushing a pound. I mean, you know, for a folding knife. 99% of people wouldn't carry this knife in an EDC roll or anything like that. And that's understandable. I don't really need this knife for what I do. Like I said, I've carried the Recon 1 for years, and the Recon 1 weighs half of what the 4MAX does. And this knife has done everything I've ever asked it to. So there's no reason for me to need something beefier, but I like a chunky, beefy knife. And this, if you're talking about a knife that inspires confidence in use, this knife does it. I mean, I feel like I could conquer the world with this knife. It is just so big and so solid. And for $83, I paid $83 for this. I've been more excited about other knives than I have this knife, but for the price point, this may be one of the better knives I've ever bought. I mean, you were getting so much knife for $82, especially considering the Recon 1, granted, this one is an older one of mine. This one's in CTS XHP. But I mean, considering you can get a new Recon one now in S35VN for $100, or this one for, in my case, $83. I mean, if nothing else, but for the novelty of a knife this size, I may go with the 4MAX. It's just a really cool knife. I know I've mumbled on this whole video about my infatuation with this knife. I just love it. I'll do some size comparisons real quick, or I will attempt to. Put the 4MAX up top. As you can see, this is the Recon 1, and I will line them up butt to butt as best I can. The Recon 1 is 3/4 to an inch longer than the Recon 1, and I'll just preface this too. The 4MAX Scout weighs more than every knife I'm about to show you. So I'm not going to mention weight. The 4MAX is going to be heavier, but there's a Recon 1, and keep in mind the Recon 1 is a large knife. It's a 4-inch blade as well, and slightly shorter handle, a lot lighter because this knife doesn't have steel liners. But it's a very large knife. The 4MAX is bigger. Here's another large folder. This is the Spyderco Military, the full-size Military. Again, 4-inch blade. Line them all up. Just a little bit longer than the Spyderco Military. I'd probably say about 3/16 of an inch longer overall than the Spyderco Military. Again, a 4-inch blade. All three of these knives on the table right now have a 4-inch blade. Move this out of the way. As you can see, that's close. I just wanted to throw this knife in because I feel like this is a knife that many people have had before, or at least handled. It's roughly the same overall length as the 4MAX. Obviously, the 4MAX weighs 4 times what this knife does, but lengthwise, it's pretty close. The 4MAX just being a little bit longer. Another one that, of course, everybody has, and I've mentioned it in other videos, I finally got my PM2 back from my wife. She's been carrying this knife for forever. I was working on hers, so she borrowed mine, and then she misplaced it. But anyway, it's back home again. This is just a standard paramilitary 2, butt to butt. Yeah, the 4MAX Scout is 2 inches longer, 2.5 inches longer, something like that. Much larger knife. I know the PM2 is the love child for a bunch of knife people, so there's your size comparison with it. A few more just for humor's sake. This is my well-used, well-loved K-bar. This is a full-size 7-inch bladed K-bar. Make sure everything is in frame. Obviously, the K-bar is going to be longer. K-bar, the size difference between the Cold Steel 4MAX and the Spyderco PM2 is about the same here. Cold Steel is about 2.5 inches longer than the 4MAX. I don't know how much this K-bar weighs off the top of my head. I'm willing to bet they're pretty similar. Just feel in hand, they feel like they weigh roughly the same thing. And of course, that is for a full-size 7-inch bladed combat utility knife. Just for giggles, here's the Civivi Elementum. The Civivi Elementum Open is about 1 inch longer than the handle on the 4MAX. And then I think that's it as far as size comparisons go. Well, I guess since I've got it, I was carrying this knife, so I had it on my belt. I guess I'll throw it up here. This is a SE4. And as you can see, the 4MAX is about an inch longer overall than the SE4 is. Again, the SE4 is a 4.5 inch blade, I think, if I remember correctly. About the same cutting edge on both of these. And a point to note here, this is a folding knife with a 4-inch blade, and it weighs 10 ounces overall. This is a fixed blade knife with a 4.5 inch blade. And I don't know the weight of the SE4 off the top of my head, but the 4MAX, I would say the 4MAX weighs 2 or 3 ounces more than this fixed blade SE4 is. So just a point to note. But yeah, I just wanted to show y'all guys this. I know they're out of stock in a lot of places. Like I said, I got this one from Knife Center. They had them in stock when I ordered this one about a month ago, I guess, or a little over a month ago. If you're into big knives, heavy knives, you know, just real indestructible, into the world, apocalyptic, you know, through hell and back knives, get one of these, please. Do yourself a favor. I didn't think I would like this thing as much as I did. I thought it would just be oh yeah, it's a big knife, that's kind of cool. I don't know what it is. This is an awesome knife. I love it. It's a good knife too. This knife slices really good. Granted, it's thick. It's really thick behind the edge. I mean, 3/6" blade stock. I mean, it's not a Spyderco, but it cuts good. It handles good. It's comfortable in the hand. If you can get past the weight, I mean, this is an awesome knife. What I will say, I think I mentioned earlier in the video about trying to lighten the action up on this knife. Of course, this is a triad lock. This is a one-handed knife. You can operate it one-handed. Obviously, this blade being so big and so heavy, it will drop. So when I press the lock down right here, you can see the knife dropped, and it actually did it there. But you can see there's no, you see it right there? There's no choil on this knife, realistically. I mean, you could call this a choil, maybe, depending on how you got your finger in there. But it's not really a choil, and especially when the knife is closing, there's no choil right here to catch anything. So when it closes, if you do it one-handed, if you depress this, and this blade swings down, it is swinging right on, and as you can see, I'm already bleeding from it. It swings down right onto your finger. You can see it right there. Get that off. Not very safe. I would recommend using two hands with this knife. If you're gonna do it, I tend to just angle the knife down. That way when it drops, it doesn't, I'm not holding it like this where it's gonna come all the way back on me. I angle it to where it's holding to where it just kind of falls to this position, and then I can close it. Use two hands though. You can see right there, it will cut you. And if you can see, I've got two marks. That one's the one that I just did on camera for you guys. That was the one from earlier. I've actually done it 3 times now in total, because I do the same thing with my Recon 1, but my Recon 1, the blade isn't heavy enough for it to really do anything. This is a heavy blade, and it's got a really strong detent. So if your finger is in there, I mean, you can see that where it catches. It will cut you. It will cut you. So be careful with this. But I highly recommend you get one, guys. I love this knife. If nothing else, for the novelty of it. But I mean, I feel like I could cut the refrigerator with this knife if I had to. Highly recommend you pick one up. If you guys enjoyed this video, I mean, keep in mind, I bleed for you guys to bring you these reviews. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Subscribe. That really helps out. I'm not trying to be a big famous YouTuber by any means. I just like knives, and I like talking about knives and showing you guys knives. But it really does help when you subscribe. I think the statistic last time I checked my account, I think it was roughly 5% of my viewers are actually subscribed to my channel. It just helps out a lot if you hit the subscribe. If you don't like the channel, hey, that's fine. You don't have to subscribe. And shoot me some constructive criticism. I'm always open to that. Anyway, I know I'm coming up on a 30-minute mark. This may be the longest video I've made, but I just love this knife, and there was so much to talk about. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Again, I try to post at least 1 or 2 videos a week, but I work. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I try my best. Anyway, till next time, guys, hope y'all enjoyed it. See y'all next time.